This is United Network News with Sunny Galt, Calen Gipp, Kimberly Gogan, and our field messengers from around the world. Here's today's real news.
It's Monday, October 20th, 2025, and here are today's stories. Canada Post workers are on strike again over plans to cut home deliveries and close some rural offices. And our field messengers report firsthand on how Canadians are already feeling the impact. Healthcare investments promise to make care more accessible, but many Kenyans are finding it harder than ever to afford treatment. We'll uncover how private funding meant to close healthcare gaps may be widening them instead. Working from home once felt like freedom, more flexibility, more balance, even more productivity. But now with companies enforcing return-to-office mandates and tracking attendance, is the dream over or just evolving? A famous writer's former home in the Faroe Islands still hums with creativity. Step inside the space where stories and paintings were born and see how it's inspiring today's artists in surprising ways. Built from volcanic rock and shaped by the wind, traditional homes in the Canary Islands blend beauty and practicality. Discover what these centuries-old designs reveal about the island's culture and their clever approach to climate. Across Latin America, farmers are finding new hope in the face of droughts and deforestation. See how agroforestry is not only restoring land, but rebuilding lives and communities. And in a forest in New Jersey, magic meets mindfulness. On the Ferry Trail, families build tiny homes from nature's materials, learning that imagination and environmental respect can grow side by side. Canada Post workers are on strike again for the second time in less than a year. This time, it's all about the government's transformation plan, which includes cutting door-to-door delivery, reducing delivery frequency, and closing some rural post offices. The Postal Workers Union says these changes threaten jobs, public services, and fair wages, sparking major pushback. Our UNN field messengers, who are feeling the effects of these changes, contributed to this report by sharing their experiences firsthand. The current Canada Post strike blew up after months of tense talks between the union and the company, stalled over pay, benefits, and job security. Postal workers are asking for better pay to keep up with inflation, improved benefits, and more job security, so full-time positions aren't being replaced with part-time or contract roles. Canada Post says it's under serious financial pressure. Fewer letters are being sent, and parcel delivery is getting more competitive. And meeting all of the union's demands would be too costly without big changes to how they operate. Since neither side is ready to budge, that's why your mail is taking longer to show up. And that's exactly what Field Messenger Steve M. is seeing in Alberta, on the western side of Canada.
We're checking the mail. It hasn't been delivered for at least 2 weeks due to strike conditions. Yeah, nothing in there. I'm down at River City Center where Shoppers Drug Mart is and the local postal outlet. I'm going to go have a conversation and find out what's going on. Just had an interesting conversation with the folks at the counter, and starting today there's a rotational strike happening, and deliveries to mailboxes are going to start, but they're going to be 15 to 20 days delayed. We can also bring in packages for delivery, but it's going to be longer waiting periods because of the delay, so up to 2 weeks, where it usually takes 3 to 4 days.
Rotating strikes are a strategy unions sometimes use when they want to maintain pressure without shutting down everything at once. Instead of all workers walking off the job nationwide, different locations or departments stop work for set periods of time, one after another. For Canada Post, this means some cities or regions may pause mail delivery for a few days, while others continue operating. Then the strike rotates to a different area, so mail service is constantly disrupted somewhere, but the company can still keep some operations going. The advantage for the union is that it keeps management on edge and spreads the impact over a longer period while reducing the chance of a complete nationwide shutdown that could trigger government intervention. For Canadians, it means delivery is spotty. Some places might get mail normally for a few days, then suddenly face delays when their area is hit by the strike. UNN Field Messenger Annette, based in Hope, British Columbia, on the southern part of the province, visited local post offices in her area to see if any were affected by the rotating strikes.
Today I checked out 4 Canada post offices to see what was happening, and currently the Canadian postal strike in British Columbia, as of October 2025, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, the CUPW, has transitioned from a full national strike to a rolling one. And now you can see that the mail delivery is mostly restored as of October 11th, although certain areas might still experience some delays. They're having kind of rotating strikes, like I said, so I didn't see any in the 4 that I visited locally within a half an hour radius.
Canada Post has faced more than 170 days of strike action in less than a year, including 2 national strikes, and the effects are being felt by Canadians and businesses alike. Last November, postal workers walked out over pay and working conditions, and while the government forced them back in December, the core issues remained unresolved. The union says Canada Post's latest offer is almost identical to a previous rejected one and could lead to office closures and job cuts, especially in smaller communities. While unpredictable strike schedules and ongoing workplace changes are taking a toll on employee morale. Financial pressures add to the uncertainty of this strike. Canada Post has little competition, and it's lost more than $5 billion since 2018 and recently received a $1 billion federal loan. The union has suggested new revenue streams like banking and passport services rather than cutting jobs, with both sides digging in and delays continuing. The strike is hitting especially hard for people who rely on post office boxes for their mail. UNN Field Messenger Tanis, who lives in northwest Alberta, tells us since last year's strike, residents without a street address often have to pay extra to have their packages delivered to a business downtown. This is particularly challenging in smaller towns where alternative delivery options are limited and traveling to pick up packages can be time-consuming and costly. For many, it adds another layer of stress on top of the ongoing delays caused by the strike. And if you're sending packages to Canada, expect them to take a little longer, as UNN Field Messenger Amy discovered when she tried sending a package from New Jersey in the United States.
I went to 2 post offices and no one knew or mentioned anything about the Canada strike. I mailed my package with the most comprehensive tracking, wanting a guaranteed date of delivery, which is 3 to 5 days, not including Saturdays. Today is Friday. I wanted an exact date, and the worker told me it would be on the receipt. But when the receipt was printed, there was no delivery date, and the worker thought that was really strange because the date of delivery would always be on there. So he told me to keep checking the tracking in a day to give the system time to catch up. So we'll just have to wait and see what will happen with this package.
Right now, that wait-and-see feeling is being felt across the country, and no one knows exactly how this strike will play out. UNN Field Messenger Mariette from New Brunswick on the eastern side of Canada has been hearing from older Canadians who are worried about receiving their old age security and Canada pension plan payments on time, as well as getting other important mail like utility bills, rent notices, and other payments they rely on. While some social benefit checks are scheduled to be delivered, other mail may be delayed due to the rotating strikes. Canadians in this situation should expect possible delays and plan accordingly. Setting up direct deposit where possible can help ensure critical payments arrive safely and on schedule. And of course, a big thank you to all the field messengers who participated in this story. This is what being a field messenger is all about: sharing what's happening in your own community to help paint the bigger picture of major issues like the Canada Post strike. By bringing local experiences to light, you're helping tell the story that matters. Together, we're showing how everyday voices can make a real difference. Kenya's healthcare system has seen significant investments in recent years, aiming to improve access and quality of care. For instance, the International Finance Corporation, or IFC, a branch of the World Bank Group, has partnered with private equity firms to fund for-profit hospitals across Kenya and East Africa. While these projects promise to fill healthcare gaps, they have instead raised serious concerns about affordability and inequality. These investments did bring advanced facilities and specialized services, but they largely benefited wealthier patients, leaving low-income families unable to afford basic care. Reports by Bloomberg and the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists indicate the pressure to generate profits drove up treatment costs, making healthcare less accessible and leading to crippling debt. Some hospitals even unlawfully detain patients due to unpaid bills. Interviews with staff suggest financial returns often overshadow patient welfare, with resources being diverted from vulnerable populations. As a result, families had to ask for money from friends, relatives, churches, and workplaces. This financial strain affected not just individuals, but entire communities. Despite their initial promises, the IFC's investments have ultimately deepened inequality, funneling millions into private equity fees and bonuses.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I think if you come in with expectations of making wild profits, especially in countries, where people's earnings are a bit lower, it's a very tough thing to do because your market clearly is very restricted. In a country like Kenya, you do have some very wealthy members of society, but they are restricted to the top 1%, sometimes even less, that people can actually afford these hospitals. And insurance coverage is very weak in places like Kenya, that really you're talking 2-3% of the population. So your ability to access people in rural areas, in poorer neighborhoods, is very, very low, really, at a private hospital. And I think, investors, obviously, when they come in, they have to think about their models.
These affordability and access issues have been further complicated by recent changes in public health insurance. Patients across the country are now facing major challenges as rural, private, and faith-based hospitals suspend services for those covered by the new Social Health Authority, SHA. The SHA is a state corporation designed to manage public health insurance for all citizens and eligible foreigners, aiming to provide accessible, affordable, and quality health insurance. It replaced the National Health Insurance Fund in 2023 and officially started operations on October 1st, 2024. However, the transition has been far from smooth. The Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya claims a combination of unpaid claims, stalled verifications, and a failing financing model is crippling hospitals. By August 2025, the SHA and the defunct National Health Insurance Fund owed hospitals a staggering 76.8 billion Kenyan shillings, which is about 593 million US dollars, leaving many unable to pay staff, buy supplies, or stay operational. Faith-based and private hospitals are amongst the hardest hit, with billions of shillings in reimbursements still outstanding.
we will not be extending credit to SHA. And the reason is, as we have said, we have already proven that SHA is a bad borrower and a bad debtor. Anybody who knows that when you are being conned by someone, you must draw the line at being conned. So SHA has already received credit from us as hospitals worth 76 billion. Surely, how much more credit does SHA want? SHA is unable to meet its obligations. And the reason why SHA is unable to meet its obligations is because the architects of SHA are unwilling to listen to sound advice. Where is SHA lipa polepole? If you ask people in Kenya today, SHA lipa polepole is more debts on poor people.
This financial mess is a huge problem for Kenya's healthcare system. It means so many people are left without essential medical care. Hospitals are struggling to stay open, limiting access to basic services nationwide. And when healthcare prioritizes profit, fair access often suffers. Poverty experts have long argued that funding for-profit healthcare doesn't help the poorest. Even the World Bank's investment arm admits it doesn't track whether these businesses reach those in need, but continues to fund them. Remember when working from home felt like a dream? No commute, more flexibility, and sometimes actually getting more done. After COVID, millions of employees discovered they would be more productive without setting foot in an office, and they loved having more control over their day. But now, many companies are asking people to come back, and in some cases, tracking every day you show up. These return to office rules aren't just about filling desks. They're about a tug of war between what bosses expect and what workers actually want. So, how did we get here? After COVID forced everyone to work remotely, companies started worrying about collaboration, company culture, and whether employees were really connecting in meaningful ways. Big corporations especially wanted structure, clear expectations, and justification for the expensive office space they'd been paying for all along. The thinking was simple. More people in the office equals more innovation, easier mentoring, and a stronger sense of team. At least that's what employees were told. It's now 2025, and return to office mandates are everywhere. According to CBRE, a global commercial real estate firm that tracks workplace behavior, 85% of companies had shared an attendance policy with employees, and the number actually enforcing those rules has more than doubled since 2024. Nearly 7 out of 10 companies are now keeping tabs on who's showing up. That's a big jump from last year.
Okay, let's take about 30 seconds and talk about return to office mandates and how they're ridiculous. So over COVID, when everyone had work from home, all of these companies, all of them, made record profits. Record profits. And now the CEOs, who are completely out of touch, don't understand what's going on in a day-to-day life, have offices built for them 5 minutes from their house with state-of-the-art everything, are now saying that people need to come to work because they're not getting enough work done. This is not a return to office mandate. This is what we call a voluntary layoff program.
Some employers have used return to office mandates as a not so subtle way to reduce staff without formal layoffs. A University of Pittsburgh study found S&P 500 firms saw a 14% increase in turnover after return to work mandates, especially amongst women, senior staff, and highly skilled workers, with hiring rates dropping as well. Similarly, Bamboo HR research found nearly 40% of managers admitted to layoffs because not enough employees quit voluntarily in response to return to work rules. But not every company is sticking to strict return to office tracking. AT&T, for example, scaled back its presence reporting system after employees complained about glitches and stress from being monitored so closely. The system had tracked hours at the office, sometimes using laptop and mobile data, but inaccuracies were creating frustration and distrust. Other companies like Amazon, JP Morgan, and Microsoft have also eased enforcement after seeing that strict monitoring can push out talent, lower morale, and make hiring harder.
The craziest thing about return to office mandates to me is that they hurt the company more than they help them, and they keep doing them anyways. So when it comes to employee motivation and engagement, there are really 3 different buckets. The first is your engaged group who is really productive. They usually stay a decent amount of time. The second bucket is really our quiet quitters. They just go to work, they do their job, they go home. And the last group is so disengaged and over their employer that they are now doing more harm than good. And I say all of this because in Great Place to Work's newest survey, they found that it really didn't matter where you ended up working. It mattered that employees had control over it. So when the employer tells employees when and where they need to work, only 43% of them want to stay at their company, as opposed to when employees decide, that number goes up to 60%. And what makes this really interesting is the job market is not great right now. So that means that a lot of people are kind of getting stuck at companies that they do not want to be at. Now, when you force a return to office and your employees don't really have anywhere else to go, they become these absolute menaces. And when employees are allowed to choose where they work, they are 14 times less likely to quit and stay. And as someone who works in HR, I can tell you confidently that the people that quit and stay are so much more dangerous to a company than the people who quit and actually leave.
If you're unhappy with your return to work mandates, start by knowing your rights and reviewing company policies. Talk to your manager about flexible options, highlighting how remote or hybrid work helps you stay productive. Document your successes while working remotely to make your case stronger. If nothing changes and the policy is a deal breaker, it may be time to consider a career change or pursue something on your own that you're really passionate about.
Writer and painter William Heinesen's former home in the Faroe Islands is now a museum and artist residency. UNN Field Messenger Susan stayed there exploring the space that continues to inspire.
Hello, this is Field Messenger Susan from Faroe Islands. I'm currently staying in an author and painter William Heinesen's house, and I wanted to tell you a little bit more about him, but first, I'll have a guy tell you some more.
Hello, my name is Randi Kurberg, and this is William's house, and I'm the guide here. He was so talented, and he considered himself as an author, but and he said he was a picture maker, not an artist or a painter. But I think he was so well skilled and creative, and it just fascinates me. And I think when I look around, and also when I'm talking about him, I think he must have been working all the time.
But did you meet him?
I remember him, but I never said hello to him. But I remember him and his wife. They usually sat on a bench here outside the house or in the park. And I used to walk past them, and they were just sitting quiet, looking straight ahead, with his brown old coat and a stick. And his wife, Lisa, she always had so colorful scarves, and they were looking so exotic, I think. Yeah. He died in 91, yeah, and he was 91 years old.
But he still seems to be very relevant.
Yeah, and I think also if you read his works, it has some classic traits, or what you call it. You can always read William. I think he has something to tell us.
William Heinesen was a Faroese writer and painter born in Tórshavn in 1900s. He wrote in Danish, but his works are deeply rooted in Faroese life blending myth, folklore, and everyday struggles. His novels, such as The Good Hope, explores the tension between light and darkness, hope and despair. Heinesen earned international recognition, including the Nordic Council's Literature Prize in 1965. He passed away in 1991, leaving behind a legacy as one of the Faroe Islands' greatest cultural voices. This is Field Messenger Susan signing off from William Heinesen's house.
Amino acids play a vital role in maintaining your overall health and well-being. Not enough amino acids and protein daily can result in brain fog, hormone imbalances, digestive issues, cognitive function, lack of energy, lower immunity, decreased muscle strength, and much more. That's why we created our amino acid complex, packed with 21 free-form, easily digestible aminos that skip the breakdown and go straight to work energizing your mind and body. Used by athletes, vegans, and high performers. New Earth's amino acid complex helps your mind and body recover, rebuild, and renew daily. Subscribe now and optimize your life.
Hello, I'm Susan from Sweden.
Mwanda Michael from Eastern Uganda, Africa.
Hi, I'm Tim from Vancouver, Canada.
I'm Titeshwar Thavgao from Manipur State, India.
I'm Gumba Obasi from Southeast Nigeria.
Arnaito Chakrini from Western Uganda, Mbarara.
At United Network News, you are the news.
My name's Christina, Field Messenger, report first one in the hurricane down here in Southern California from Mexico.
Real people reporting real stories from all around the world. At UNN, our field messengers are changing the face of news.
This is Jason from United Network News. We're going to be doing some aircrete building with new technologies that allow us to live in comfort and also off the grid.
Take the next step in changing the way the world gets the news. Become a UNN field messenger today.
I am Michelle from South Africa, and we are the United Network News.
I am United Network News.
I am United Network News.
If it is going to be, then it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to me.
Si va a ser así, depende de mí. It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to all of us. We're UNN.
Traditional Canarian houses built from volcanic rock, limestone and wood blend practicality with beauty. UNN Field Messenger Emma reports on how these homes adapt to the climate and reflect the island's unique culture.
Hi, my name is Emma. I'm a field messenger for United Network News, reporting from Fuerteventura, Spain, in Europe. This report is going to be about volcanic architecture on the Canary Islands. Volcanic rocks are not dense and heavy, so like this one. It's a big rock, but it's not heavy, and it's quite porous. As you can see here, lots of holes in it. And it's the perfect building material because it's everywhere. The traditional way of building houses on the Canary Islands can be seen as you travel around the islands. You will see many Canarian houses made in a traditional way by volcanic rock, limestone, and wooden elements. Sadly, some are ruins, but when they do serve to show you exactly how they were made and how they were built. Those that have been maintained are a testament to the original construction. Several houses have been around for more than 200 years. The Canarian domestic architecture is mainly influenced by mainland Spain and Portugal, contributing to interest architectural solution of carpentry such as windows and balconies. The construction of Canarian houses is simple, very practical, and very effective, and with minimal maintenance. They last for years and years and years. These days, a cement and black sand render is used, but originally a lime-based render was used. Windows tend to be small in Canarian houses, so older houses can be pretty dark inside. The windows tend to be positioned in such a way that the air flows through the house in the direction of the trade winds. Pergolas are usually fitted over the window areas, and this provides a space to relax and to keep the direct sunlight away from the windows. The thick walls are incredible for insulation and helps to maintain a pretty steady temperature all year round. This seems to achieve the trick of being cool in midsummer while retaining sun warmth in the winter. New houses are not built with the same quality, but that's nothing new. Thank you for watching. Hope you liked the report. See you next time. Bye.
Latin America faces severe environmental threats with extreme weather events like heat waves, droughts, and hurricanes impacting millions, causing flooding and crop loss. Deforestation and land degradation are also major problems, but agroforestry systems in the region offer a promising solution to these societal, productive, and environmental issues. In fact, communities in Latin America have long managed edible landscapes, agroforestry systems that thrive alongside natural forests. Research shows these communities oversee about 200 million hectares of biodiverse land, but only 5% is legally recognized as their territory. For years, they've advocated for legal protection, citing their role in preserving biodiversity, but lacked scientific proof. However, a new study in Nature Communications, Earth and Environment confirms their impact, showing more than half of their formally recognized lands in Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and Suriname overlap with the world's most biodiverse areas. In Ecuador, 99% of these community lands are in biodiversity hotspots, while Colombia's figure is nearly 92%. The research also showed deforestation rates are much lower on these community lands, proving their critical role in conservation.
On the island of Hispaniola, as in many parts of the developing world, poor smallholder farmers are running out of options. Their lives are tied to the health of their soil, but when they cut forest to grow crops, the soil is quickly exhausted. So after a year or two, more forest has to be cut. Poverty and forest loss are locked in a vicious cycle. Each problem is making the other one worse. Here, along the Dominican Republic-Haiti border, the tree bank is working to turn that cycle around.
Quiterio
Aquino is one of the tree bank's poorest farmers. He says his farm no longer produces much because the soil is just too worn out. Even the weeds are sparse. To restore the harvest, we created a highly productive multi-cropping system on about 1 acre of the farm. The system includes around 20 different crops. This new kind of farming should keep the soil healthy. It will easily feed Quiterio's family, and it should prevent the farm's last patches of forest from being cut. It will also allow Quiterio to replant the barren areas of his farm with trees from the tree bank nursery. At the nursery, Gaspar describes some native trees. This species is important for restoring land along streams. Gaspar runs the nursery in collaboration with the other farmers. The trees are available to the farmers for free. The nursery produces various fruit trees as well as native species that are used for replanting forest.
When most people think of Amazon deforestation, they picture vast croplands. But the main driver is actually land clearing for cattle pasture on small family farms. In Brazil's Pará state, for example, 40% of deforestation happens on more than 300,000 small farms, according to the environmental organization, the Nature Conservancy. For every 10 hectares cleared, 6 become pasture, while only 1 is used for crops. This often kicks off a destructive cycle where poorly managed pastures degrade, forcing farmers to clear more land for their livestock to graze. This process harms the forest, farm productivity, and the landowner's income. In 2024, Brazil launched the Green Path program, which helps transform this low-value land back into productive, sustainable farmland without more deforestation. By using technology and providing support, the initiative aims to restore millions of hectares, boost food production, and ultimately stop illegal deforestation.
Brazil currently has about 160 million hectares of pastures, and more than half of them show degradation. Lands with low productivity or abandoned that could generate more income in addition to retaining carbon in the soil.
Aqui é uma área que já vem degradada que nem eu falo, que até 2016, 2017 tinha gado dentro. Aí foi abandonado. E agora a gente pegou e está entrando no projeto aí, de reflorestar toda.
Além de você ter essa receita desde o primeiro ano e você vai se manter ad eterno na mesma área, porque é só você renovar, né, os cultivos, e você vai sempre ter a produção, né? Mas também não há a necessidade de desmatamento em novas áreas.
No nosso sistema agroflorestal não há desmatamento, há renovação de áreas.
A gente está utilizando a mesma terra e ela vem melhorando cada dia que passa, né? A mesma terra melhorando cada dia que passa.
Ceará is one of the Brazilian states where investment in sustainable practices has generated good results and development. Over there, corn crop productivity can be 10 times higher than the conventional model.
No primeiro ano, a gente produzia em torno de 12 sacos por hectare. No segundo ano, baixava para 8 sacos por hectare. Depois para 4 sacos por hectare e acabava. Agora é o contrário, a conta é o contrário. No segundo ano, a gente tirou 104 sacos por hectare e esse ano a gente já está imaginando acima de 110 sacos por hectare.
Another example of such restorative work is the Forest Cacao Project. For the past 10 years, this project has collaborated with more than 600 families in one of the Amazon's most deforested areas. So far, more than 1,000 hectares have been restored through various methods, including planting seeds and seedlings, encouraging natural regeneration, and integrating diverse native plants. Beyond environmental benefits, cocoa cultivation generates higher income than livestock and can be combined with crops like corn, cassava, and acai, significantly improving both income and family food security. Ultimately, nature-based solutions like agroforestry improve soil health, restore natural ecosystems, and benefit everyone. And agroforestry isn't limited to Brazil or Latin America. It's a global practice. These systems are proving to be powerful tools for a more sustainable and resilient future worldwide.
The Fairy Trail, a half-mile path in South Mountain Reservation, New Jersey, invites families to build tiny homes from natural materials. UNN Field Messenger Amy reports on how this magical trail teaches children and adults to respect nature.
Hi, Amy reporting for UNN here from Millburn, New Jersey. And today I'm here at the South Mountain Reservation. And this is the Rahway Trail, also known as the Fairy Trail. And along this trail, I've heard that people build things out of stuff that you find in the mountain. And they leave it here along the trail. So I've never experienced this before. So come on with me and we'll experience it together.
Welcome to the South Mountain Reservation, Rahway Fairy Trail.
This half-mile trail has been inhabited by fairies. As you walk along the white-blazed path, look carefully and you will find where they have chosen to live. Fairies build their homes in tree hollows and roots. Fairy houses are delicate, so be very gentle and try not to disturb any fairies that might be inside. This fairy trail is a magical place to introduce children and adults alike to the splendors of forests. This trail is experienced by thousands of families each year, Children, especially, will learn the importance of respecting and preserving nature, knowing they can help the endangered fairy population whose habitats are being destroyed. That's why it is so important for the fairy houses to blend in to the environment without sparkles and bright colors. You will even see some gnome homes. Gnomes live harmoniously with the fairies. If you build it, they will come. The South Mountain Conservancy, which serves as both steward and advocate for the South Mountain Reservation, has a few rules for building the fairy houses and must approve the structures before they can be placed along the trail. To begin, a flat wood base or slate roof shingle will provide support for these creations while being transported to its place in the forest. Now, imagine yourself as a tiny fairy who might want a cozy place to sleep, gather with friends, or a fun playground. Fallen branches, bark, acorns, pine cones, dried grasses or flowers, seashells, stones, or anything natural that can be found outdoors are all acceptable building materials. And please don't disturb the living plants like moss. So let's check out some of the houses I saw as I hiked along this fairy trail. Some hang from trees, or some have many stairs, maybe as a deterrent for crawling creatures. This one, the pine cones were deconstructed to make individual roof shingles. Now that's creativity at its best. Here we have some with a moss roof, a house with masonry construction, or furnished with tables, chairs, and beds. How about this one with a sunroof? Or this hunting lodge? Here is a water house and even a toilet. These gourd homes are very creative. This one is a vacation rental. Pretty awesome, right? While filming these homes, I was fortunate to catch a fairy amongst the footage. Proof that fairies do exist, and we need to preserve and respect forests everywhere. Well, we've come to the end of the fairy trail. I hope you enjoyed this report. Thank you for watching.
UNN is changing the face of news. Join us for our weekly Field Messenger meetings and learn how you can make a difference. Visit unitednetwork.earth for more information. Thanks for watching.